Your feelings aren't real. Now don't get mad at me yet. Give me a second to explain. I've been thinking about feelings this week, and when I say that your feelings aren't real, obviously I don't mean that you don't experience them. That would be silly. Of course you experience your feelings. So your feelings are real for you. I also don't mean that your feelings are not important. Of course they are. They're not necessarily the most important thing. It depends on what else is on the table. But they are important. They do have value. That doesn't mean that they're always an accurate reflection of reality, that they don't have to be examined, chosen, sifted through, but they do have value. When I say that your feelings aren't real, I mean that your feelings aren't real yet. You're the first person to experience your feelings. But all of that happens internally. You are the only person who lives in your head, so you may feel a lot of things. But whatever you feel only exists for you. It doesn't exist out in the real world where everyone else is. In order for a feeling to be real, as in order for a feeling to exist out in reality, it must be expressed and brought into the real world where everyone else lives. Why? Because that's the way human beings work. If there was a famine, but it only affected one person, that would still be terrible. It's terrible that that one person is starving. But it's not the same thing as if 1 million people are starving from famine. Human beings only have so much ability to focus on a bunch of different things at once. And the bigger a problem is, or the bigger a positive thing is, the more likely it is to get our attention. If your feelings are just something that exists inside your own head, then the world is going to treat it as though it is on that scale. If your feelings exist out in the real world because they have been expressed, then that's going to carry more weight. Now, what do I mean by your feelings being expressed? There are multiple ways you can express your feelings. You can use words. Well, at least now they're beyond just you. They've exited just your head, and other people are at least aware of them. Prior to that, it requires basically telepathy. But words are just words. People have the full capability of being able to lie. So if your actions contradict your words, then that's not going to carry a lot of weight. And the same is going to be true of your feelings. If you say you are a loving person, but the way you treat other people is aggressive and violent, then your words aren't going to carry that much weight. That's a pretty simple fact of life. Our actions matter more than our words. It doesn't mean our words don't matter at all, but actions matter a lot more. So to stick with that example, if you say you are a loving person, what does that mean? Does it mean that inside, in your own head, where it's just you, you experience a lot of feelings that would fall under the umbrella of love? If so, that's great. It is. I'm glad you have a good experience inside your own mind, but it doesn't impact anyone else as long as it stays in your own mind. The only way that your loving feelings impact anyone besides you is if they are expressed. And the strongest form of expression is actions. Sure, you can share your words, and you should, but you definitely don't want your actions to contradict your words, because that's an indication that you're lying, or at the very least hypocritical. Preferably, the way that you live and treat others should reinforce your words as being true. This may sound like really basic stuff, but we live in a world that is actually encouraging people not to express their feelings. For instance, there was a woman not too long ago on social media who expressed gratitude to her husband for taking care of their baby during the night when she was feeling sick. And she was actually shamed for having expressed gratitude to her husband. Why should she be grateful to her husband for doing what he should do anyway? Well, two things can be true at once. Of course, a loving husband would take care of his own child, and of course, a loving husband would do so under circumstances where his spouse, who he presumably loves, is feeling badly. But the fact that he should do this as part of being a good person doesn't negate the fact that she should also be a good person. If he is supposed to be loving to her, she is supposed to be loving to him. The idea that it is wrong to express your gratitude is silly. How else is it real? If she felt gratitude but never said anything to him, never showed it to him with her actions, just experienced it inside her own head and said, well, that makes me a grateful person, because in my head, where only I live, I know that I'm a grateful person. No one else knows that. You haven't brought that feeling outside of your head, and the rest of us don't live in your head. All we have to go on is what's out here in the real world. And that requires you to express your gratitude, to express your love. If you don't, then for everyone except you, it's not real. We don't know it's there. If the shoe was on the other foot, and this woman had felt bad all day and had taken care of the baby despite that, and had even cooked a nice meal for her husband, and he came home, and he felt grateful for everything she had done, but she didn't know that, because he didn't bother to let her know that that was how he was feeling. The exact same people that were telling her she was a bad person for expressing her gratitude would be telling him that he was a bad person for not expressing his gratitude. We all want to receive acknowledgement from each other. We all want to receive love from each other. We all want to receive compassion from each other, and kindness and gratitude and all of the positive things. But at the same time, we're encouraged to think of ourselves as some kind of deity that never does the same for others. We are to be worshipped, and others are to express that worship to us, but we are never to reciprocate. Be entirely self-centered, be entirely self-worshipping, and actively go out of your way to flip others the bird with a resentful attitude that says, I'm not going to be grateful to you for a damned thing. I'm not going to be loving or understanding or compassionate. Yes, you need to be interested in the things I'm interested in, but I'm not going to be interested in the things you're interested in. Yes, you need to be grateful for the way I contribute to your life and let me know that you feel that way, but I'm not going to do the same. Yes, you need to love me even when I'm difficult and make me feel safe and heard and understood, but I'm definitely not going to do the same for you, and how dare you even expect me to? Your feelings are not real unless you express them, and everyone else is just as human as you are. So if you want more than for those feelings to exist in someone else's head about you, and you never know anything about them? If it's not enough that your spouse or your boyfriend or your friend feels grateful to you in their head without ever telling you, feels love in their head without ever telling you, feels admiration, empathy, interest without ever telling you, and preferably without ever telling you through their actions, if you wouldn't be okay with that from them, and that would be a very hollow relationship, then the shoe fits on both sides of this issue. The blade cuts both ways. Now, if you're not used to expressing gratitude, expressing love, it may be a little awkward at first, but like everything else in life, you get better at something with practice. So, the best way to start walking is to put one foot in front of the other. And if you've ever watched a toddler learn to walk, it's going to be a little shaky. It is. But you'll never learn to walk if you don't do it. No relationship is going to be sustained on the feelings that exist in your head that at most you tell someone else is there, but don't have the actions to back it up, or at least the attitude and behavior to back it up. If I was to say to someone, I am so grateful for you. You are an amazing person who makes my life better. And I want you to know how grateful I am. Thank you. How does it come across if I say, I want you to know I'm glad you're in my life. You make my life better. So yeah, I want you to know that I'm grateful to you. Thank you. Did that land the same way? Your attitudes speak louder than your words. And if your attitude says, I don't want you to feel valued, because you feeling valued makes me feel threatened. I may lose some power in the relationship if you realize I value you, if you realize that I am grateful for what you bring to my life. So I'm not going to let you feel valued. I'm not going to let you feel my gratitude while I tell myself I'm a grateful person, because me, on the inside, experiences feelings of gratitude that I selfishly refuse to share with you. And other lonely people in destroyed relationships with a trail of human carnage in their wake tell you, yeah, be that way. Well, first of all, let's look at their life. How many times have they been divorced? How many long-term relationships have they been able to sustain, whether romantic or family or friends? Do they come across to you as happy people? People that are having a good experience of life by hoarding their feelings inside and saying, no one is going to get a drop from me. I ain't going to be that kind of sucker. I'm not going to make anybody's life better. I'm not going to make anybody else feel more valuable. Not me. And then tell themselves that they are a compassionate, loving person while demonstrating that attitude to the world. Those two things don't line up, which means there's hypocrisy in the mix somewhere. It's great if you feel gratitude. It's great if you feel love. It's great if you feel compassion. But if by that you mean that you, one person on the planet, has that feeling float through your head every once in a while, then that only has value for you. It doesn't have any value out here for us because we don't live in your head, just like you don't live in any of ours. You need us to express our feelings to you. You need love that is out here in the world that you can experience because you don't experience what's in our head. And vice versa. We don't experience what's in yours. To be a compassionate person has to be more than I feel empathy for someone. Honestly, it has to be more than even I say I feel empathy for someone. How are you expressing that empathy? What are you doing? Are you sitting with them as they grieve the loss of a parent or a relationship or a pet or whatever it may be? Are you willing to go over to their home and sit with them in that uncomfortable situation and be there with them and let them feel what they're feeling without trying to make it better so that you're not uncomfortable? Because that's what compassion looks like when it's brought out into the world. If you say you're a loving person, how are you being loving? What are you doing? Are you sacrificing of yourself to show someone that you value them? Are you committed to them in a meaningful way? Do you put in the effort to keep that love alive, or are you good with it if it grows on its own? But, if it dies on its own, that's all right too. It doesn't have enough value to tend, to put any effort into. Just whatever happens, happens. Does that convey value? Because love is ultimately valuing someone. It's valuing them enough to want what is best for them and to do what you can to provide that environment for them rather than being a detraction in their life. That's why the opposite of love would be indifference. Not hatred, indifference. I just don't care enough about you either way. Just whatever happens, happens, man. But just know that in my head, where only I experience it, every once in a while, a gooey feeling floats through. Now, again, I'm not saying your feelings don't matter. I'm just saying you're the only one who experiences them. The rest of us only have reality to go off of, and that's the way you behave. If you say that you're compassionate and inclusive and loving, and you go online and you celebrate a murder because it's somebody you didn't personally like, and you exclude people who are different than you, whether that's because they are from a different race, different religion, different ideology, whatever. But if they're not a mirror image of you, they aren't getting included. Well, what's inclusive about that? Everybody accepts their own reflection. That ain't impressive. To be inclusive is to include the people that you wouldn't naturally be inclined to. Everyone includes the groups that they prefer. That doesn't make you any more inclusive than anyone else. Do you include people who are different? People that maybe instinctively you don't really feel that much of a connection to, but you decide, you know what, I don't want them to feel isolated off to the side, so I'm going to include them. I mean, that's what the Bible is talking about when it says, if you love those who love you, what do you do more than anyone else? Everyone does that. That's not some huge accomplishment. We have to be willing to examine the way that we see ourselves. We live in our head nonstop. So we experience every motive, every thought, every emotion, and we define ourselves to ourselves by those. but nobody else does because they can't. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they can't. They don't live in your head. They weren't there for that thought. They weren't there for that motive. They didn't experience your history. They weren't inside your head for that feeling. All that they have to go on, even if they're trying their hardest, is what you put out into the world. So if the way that you see yourself doesn't line up with the way that the people around you see you, then you're not expressing yourself very well in the world. We have to be willing to test our own identities, the ones that we give to ourselves. We say that we're this kind of person, we're a curious person or a questioning person, we're an intelligent person or a thoughtful person, we're an inclusive person or a compassionate person, whatever it may be. A blunt person, a truthful person. It doesn't matter. Insert whatever it is that you define yourself by into this spot. And ask yourselves, or better yet, ask the people around you, is that what they experience? What words would come to their mind when describing you? Now, that doesn't mean that other people's assessment of you is all that matters. Of course not, especially when it comes to malicious people who are just looking for the bad in others. You have to be selective with whose opinions you value. But if you know that this is someone who wants the best for you and is not just trying to put you down, and they don't see you the way that you see yourself, then there is a mismatch between what you are experiencing of you and what you are putting out into the world. There are 9 billion people on this planet. You are one. So one person experiences you the way you see yourself. All other 9 billion experience you in the way that you express yourself in this world. And if you are someone who does not express the positive, only the negative, even without going all the way to the extreme of the example I gave earlier of actively, I'm not going to make anyone else feel valued because somehow that takes away from me and it's all about me. I don't want anyone else to know that they make my life better. I'm not going to give them that power over me. But can you really be surprised that you feel so alone? Because you're doing everything you can to make sure that's how you end up. Other people are people too. They have needs too. You want to feel valued? Guess what? So do they. You want to feel appreciated and like you've contributed and that you count for something? Guess what? So do they. And if it's all about taking and never about giving, then those people are going to move on, not because they're bad people, but because their needs are not being met by you. And needs are needs, and they will go looking for someone who will meet those needs. I'm not saying that you need to become a sycophant and cater to people's needs when they are ridiculous and it would require you to be insincere. But if you can't even express gratitude to someone who shows you an act of kindness, because your first reaction is, well, they owed me that act of kindness. Maybe so, but two things can be true at once. They owed you an act of kindness, and you know what? You owed them an act of kindness by bringing that gratitude outside of your head into the real world where they could experience it too. So I would just encourage everyone to live out the kind of person that they think they are, and to regularly check with themselves on, am I putting the me that I experience out into the world? Is that a good thing? Is the me that I experience a good thing? Do I want that out in the world? If not, that's a whole other issue that has to be addressed. But assuming that it is, does anyone but me get to experience this person? Then that person is not real to anyone but you. Once again, not because they're trying to be mean, but because that's all they have to go on. They don't get to be in your head, even if they wanted to be. In the same way that you can't be in their head. And you need them to actually share who they are with you. And if the person that you're sharing with the world is either not the person that you experience on the inside, then first I would start by looking at, okay, what is social media doing to you? Where there's this much of a disconnect between your identities, as though you've got split personality going on here. And is this healthy? Do you want to continue doing this? Is it producing good results in your life? Are your relationships healthy? And if the person being projected online and in your day-to-day human relationships is the real you, it is the person that you experience on the inside, is that who you want to be? Because as we talked about before, these things do not descend on you. You don't just say, I'm not naturally a grateful person, or I'm not naturally a loving person, or I'm not naturally a direct person, or whatever virtue it is. Of course you're not. These things have to be cultivated. These things have to be chosen, deliberately nurtured and tended, which you get better at over time, but you have to at least start. You have to be willing to go through that awkward phase to get to the place that you want to arrive at. Other people only experience you from the outside. You are the one and only person of all of the people that live, ever have lived, or ever will live that experiences you from the inside. That doesn't mean that has no value, but it has a lot less impact than the way that everybody else experiences you. So you have to start putting out the reality of who you are, that you want to be the reality. The kind of person that you are is a deliberate choice. So I would just encourage you to put a little thought into that choice and ask yourself if you're satisfied with the outcomes of your choice and what you want to do about it from here. I'm going to leave it there for the week. If you enjoyed this, that means a lot to me. If there was something in here that made you think, then that is beautiful. If it's something in here that you want to pass on, feel free to share it. I would ask you to please click the like and follow buttons, because I'm trying to build this into a success, or, a moderate success. Not looking to be famous, just looking to engage with people and do what I can to make their life a little bit better in whatever way I have to offer. And that's what we should all be doing. We should all be willing to share whatever contributions we have to give. But that requires us to put those things out into the real world instead of thinking that the job stops when you have the feeling on the inside that no one else gets to experience. So be the kind of person that is making other people's lives better, and in that, your own life will be better. Have a good week, my friends.